On June 26, 1284, in the small German town of Hamelin, something happened. Something so catastrophic that the town itself started counting the years as since our children departed. What I am about to tell you is a story that blurs the line between a terrifying legend and an even more terrifying reality. Because while the magical piper is part of folklore, the core of this story is rooted in real medieval documents. First, let's picture the world we're in. Late 13th century Europe. Life was unbelievably harsh. Debt, famine, and disease were constant threats that killed thousands. There were no social safety nets. Children worked, migrated for labor, or were even sold as servants. Infant mortality was sky high, and social disasters were just a part of life. It's within this brutal context that the town of Hamelin recorded something uniquely traumatic: the collective disappearance of its youth. So, how do we know something really happened? The evidence is surprisingly solid. First, there's an entry in the city's own chronicle from 1384, a full century after the event. The record simply states, "It has been 100 years since our children departed." This isn't a fairy tale. It's a short, chilling sentence that speaks volumes about a lasting wound. It's the kind of note you write when a trauma is so well known that it needs no explanation. Then, there's an old plaque in Hamelin, built around 1602, which you can still see today. It literally says, "In the year 1284, on the day of Saints John and Paul, June 26 to 130 children born in Hamelin were led out of the town by a piper dressed in many colors. After passing the Calvary near the Koppenberg, they disappeared forever." Again, this isn't a modern tourist trap. It's a historical artifact, copied and studied by scholars for centuries. A manuscript from the 1440s gives even more detail. It describes a well-dressed man, about 30 years old, who enters Hamelin playing a magnificent flute. 130 children hear his music and follow him out of the town to a hill called Koppenberg, where they all vanish without a trace. And perhaps the most compelling piece of early evidence was a stained glass window in Hamelin's St. Nicholas Church, created around the year 1300, only a few years after the event. Although the window was destroyed in the 17th century, old descriptions confirm it depicted a piper leading children out of the city. The story was already so deeply ingrained in the town's memory that they memorialized it in their church. What's truly disturbing is that these medieval sources don't talk about magic or monsters. They simply say the children were lost. Not dead, not sold, just gone. Imagine the sheer panic. 130 children, suddenly erased from all records. Mothers and fathers frantically searching neighboring towns, finding nothing. The loss was so profound, so absolute, that the town literally reset its calendar. This isn't a Brothers Grimm bedtime story. It's the record of a real, collective trauma that scarred a community for generations. So, if it wasn't a magical piper, what really happened to the children of Hamelin? Modern historians have several theories, and all of them are dark. One strong possibility is a mass migration or recruitment. In the 13th century, it wasn't uncommon for charismatic recruiters, known as locators, to persuade large groups of young people to move to colonize new lands. Often in Eastern Europe, the piper, with his colorful clothes and enticing promises, could have been a real person leading the town's youth away with dreams of a better life. To the parents left behind, it would have felt like they had vanished forever. Another theory is exploitation. Selling children into servitude was, tragically, a common practice. A single persuasive figure could have easily gathered a large group of children and led them away to be sold as apprentices or laborers in a distant city. Without any way to track them, the town would have no choice but to record them as lost. Some historians point to a sudden, devastating epidemic. The story of the Piper could be a metaphor for a disease that swept through the town, targeting only the young. Things like the dancing plague, a bizarre phenomenon of collective psychosis, where people would dance uncontrollably until they collapsed from exhaustion, were actually recorded in medieval Europe. Perhaps the children of Hamelin were victims of a similar, unexplained medical event, and the Piper was a way to personify the incomprehensible horror. What makes this so unsettling is that the core elements of the story, the elements that existed long before the tale of the rats was Adidar, all disturbingly plausible. We have a precise date, June 26, 1284. We have a consistent number of victims. We have multiple medieval records that treat this not as a fantasy, but as a tragic historical event. There's no proof of an enchanted flute, but there is clear evidence of a real, devastating disappearance. We will likely never know for certain what happened to the 130 children of Hamelin, but we know they were real, and they truly vanished. We know the event was recorded and mourned for centuries, and we know that the real-world explanations from forced migration to disease to human trafficking, in many ways more horrifying than any fairy tale. The true horror of this story isn't the sound of a magic flute. It's the silence that followed. It's the fact that an entire generation of a town's youth could disappear without a trace, leaving a wound that never fully healed. And that's a legacy the town of Hamelin still carries today, a haunting, unsolved enigma. But here's the thought that truly chills me to the bone. In 1284, 130 children vanished, and the city never found answers. Today, the numbers are even more brutal. Thousands of children disappear every year, on ordinary streets, in ordinary neighborhoods, right outside our homes. There are no visible flutes, no colorful clothes, only promises, distractions, and innocent-looking invitations. Some follow strangers into cars. Others cross digital doorways online, guided by invisible voices, hearing a melody that only they can hear. Just like in Hamelin, so many of these modern disappearances are never solved. There are no bodies, no goodbyes, only empty bedrooms, untouched toys, and families left waiting for someone who will never return. Maybe the Piper was never just a man. Maybe the Piper is the name we give to the unexplainable, to the predator that adapts with the times, to a world that still, after all these centuries, fails to protect its most vulnerable. And the question that should haunt us isn't what happened to the children of Hamelin. The real question is, how many are following the music right now, while we all believe we are safe? Because true horror doesn't belong to the past. It's still walking among us, in silence.